here, and we're going to move into talking to Jack, my buddy Jack Haronian at Fluid Air Division of Spray Systems. I lost my place here for a second. Sorry about that, Jack. But
don't worry about it.
Guys,
fun.
You guys are the makers of what I would call custom-made powder processing solutions, right? I mean, so you're making high shear granulators, mixers, impact mills, screening mills, fluid bed dryers, agglomerators, Worcester coaters, and so. But this is what we would call, you're doing customized work, and so so that's interesting. And it wasn't too long ago you introduced that PolarDry. So hopefully you're going to tell me a little bit more about that. I've known you now, I think, about 3-4 years. And
you've been 3 years now, yeah.
How long now?
About 3 years. Yep.
I got you.
Time flies.
There you go. I thought you were going to be there. And then so, yeah, I can't believe time flies is right. So, well, Jack, we won't talk about football, Philadelphia and Cleveland. So we're going to move right into business here. And welcome this morning or this afternoon. Looking forward to what you have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate the introduction. And that was a great introduction to what Fluid Air does. We are an equipment manufacturer that does specialize in custom powder processing solutions. And I'm very excited to speak with everybody today. I want to thank everybody for their time and attendance. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you more about Fluid Air. Mike's last point was about our PolarDry technology, which is going to be the bulk of my presentation, as it's a new development in drying technology that I would like to speak to you all about today. And the main points we're going to focus on are, how can Fluid Air help you to innovate, as in create new products, improve the products that you're already making, and generate some of these new products or these improved products. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. So traditionally, the industry has seen pretty much two opposite forms of drying. Your conventional drying tends to have higher throughput, but also at the cost of a higher temperature. Or you could take the freeze drying route, which has large energy and batch time, but you don't have that heat damage to your product. So this is really where Fluid Air PolarDry fits in nicely right in the middle. And I would like to ask, just how much value do you think could be added to your operations by being able to create new products that are no longer exposed to heat damage, but that you can actually produce in an efficient manner? So the graphic towards the bottom on the left shows the heat gained by a spray droplet and particle through a conventional spray dryer. So as you see, as that droplet is dried on the left with conventional spray drying tactic, since the solvent has to be dried through the particle, your product experiences a very high temperature, which, as we know, can cause damage to it. Whereas on the right, with the PolarDry, your actual active product isn't exposed very long to any sort of high temperature. And the concept behind that I'm going to speak to more in the next slide. In addition to avoiding heat damage, you also now have the ability to create a product that avoids oxygen damage, as the entire machine, primarily as a safety concern, runs on nitrogen to eliminate oxygen within the system. No, it also adds that added benefit of not exposing your material to oxidation as you dry it. So that brings me on to my next point, improving processes that you're already doing. So in addition to creating new products that might be useful to you to dry that otherwise were too heat sensitive or oxygen sensitive before, PolarDry can help to improve your micro encapsulation and also your in-process agglomeration. So these two images give a great side-by-side comparison of the concept behind dry. On your left, with your conventional spray drying method, your formulation comes out as almost a homogeneous emulsion and is spray dried into droplets of that homogeneous emulsion. Well, the spray dryer conventionally's job is to basically cook the droplet thoroughly through with the high heat, so that all the solvent evaporates throughout the droplet. Now, PolarDry uses an electrostatic SprayDry technology that we released back in 2015. And the idea behind it is that your solvent will be the most polar part of your formulation and thus will be stratified to the outside of the droplet. What this does is it maximizes the surface area of the solvent around the droplet while also protecting your active, which would be less polar, which would be forced into the middle of the droplet. Essentially, this exposes your solvent to the drying gas temperature, and it maximizes that surface area. So you're maximizing your evaporative efficiency, which is how we're able to dry at such a lower temperature. And it's also protecting your active from any heat damage from the drying gas until the solvent has been evaporated away, and essentially the drying gas has been cooled by evaporation, and you're left with a cool, powdered, dry product. Now, with that stratification comes improved microencapsulation as well, because your encapsulating agent is going to be drawn to the outer edge of the droplet just along with your solvent. What this is going to do is during drying, while your solvent is being dried, the shell, which forms from microencapsulation, is going to be formed on your active in a more efficient manner. In addition to this, we also offer in-process agglomeration as added benefit to the PolarDry technology. And why is agglomeration? Well, larger particles can provide a list of benefits for powder handling. You increase your bulk density, you improve your flowability, and in many cases, you can improve your compressibility as well. So with a number of different process parameters that you have control over with the PolarDry technology, we're actually able to give larger particles than you would normally be able to produce with a conventional spray dryer. In addition, you're also able to have enough particle size control that if you don't want larger particles, you don't have to agglomerate. You can make smaller ones as well. The entire process is really in your hands to develop. So that brings me to generation. All of Fluid Air's technology, including the PolarDry, is completely scalable from R&D tabletop research development units all the way through pilot and manufacturing. We have scale-up technology. So just because you develop something on a small scale, it means that it will scale to your pilot and your manufacturing operation. So what does that mean for you is essentially being able to bring a product from development to manufacture as quickly as possible. And that is a very important part of our industry, is essentially being able to repeat your processes that you've researched, developed, and taken time to create on larger scale. I'd like to take a moment now. You should have seen a polling question pop up out of the added benefit I've talked about. There are a few options. If any of them ring a bell for you or sound like they could help in your development or your operations, please just select one of the options, and that would be great information for us as well. To move on, the first case study I want to talk about is the PolarDry versus conventional SprayDry data. This example uses acetaldehyde, which is a highly volatile chemical found in fruits and vegetables to kind of provide that freshness and zesty sensation of biting into something fresh. And essentially, we sent an emulsion through a PolarDry and we sent it through a conventional spray dryer. The PolarDry technology was able to retain about 71% roughly of the original acetaldehyde, but due to the harsh drying conditions of conventional spray drying technology, conventional spray dryer was only able to retain about 6%. So that huge difference in retention of potency is could add just so much value to the products that you were looking to develop in your own operation. Now, to compare PolarDry to freeze drying, this was a probiotic. So as you can see, viabilities are very comparable between a freeze dryer and a PolarDry due to the fact they're able to dry at such a low temperature and not damage your product. And we even see a bit of improvement with the stability of the PolarDry versus the freeze dryer. And we attribute that to the improvement in microencapsulation due to the mechanics of the drying technology. I would like to speak a little more on the bones of Fluid Air, what the business was built on. And this is the custom but more conventional powder processing technologies that Mike spoke to in the introduction. On the upper left, you'll see our scalable line of high shear mixers. In the middle, on the bottom, you'll see our size reduction mills, which are a combination of impact and screening. And in the upper right, you'll see examples of our scalable fluid bed technology, which can be used for fluid bed drying, Worcester coating or bottom spray coating, and top spray agglomeration. So really what all of these machines have differentiating design features that separates Fluid Air from other powder processing technologies that you might see out there. And I could do a whole nother presentation just on those features. And if you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me. I will also say that all of Fluid Air's technologies are engineered and manufactured right here in the U.S., which helps us to cut down on lead times because we know that when you need a new machine, you need it quickly. So it's a service that we are happy to provide. And with that, that brings me to the conclusion of this presentation. Hope you learned a little something about new technology and a little something about our other offerings, such as our fluid beds, our high shear mixers, our impact mill. And I look forward to hearing from anybody who is interested in learning more about this.
Jack Haronian with Fluid Air. Thank you. And Fluid Air Spray, I should say, because your email says jack.haronian@spray.com now. It doesn't say Fluid Air, so I'm just making sure that it's clear to everybody.
Spraying systems company.
Yeah. So you know, I find the technology, especially the PolarDry, to be fascinating. And I know we've been talking to your team about doing more of that here, so I'm looking forward to that. But there is one question here that's coming in, and it asks about, do you offer feasibility testing of your technologies?
Yes, we do. We absolutely offer the ability to test before you buy. So we have multiple ways of doing this. The PolarDry, specifically those small tabletop units, which we call the PolarDry 0.1, we have available for rental if you want to bring it into your own lab and test it within your own facility. We also offer feasibility testing lab out of New Hampshire, which is our small scale. And we will soon be opening up a large-scale testing facility out in our new headquarters in Naperville, Illinois.
Wow. So is that right down the street from where you are now, or is that a long way away? Because you're right now, same place.
Yeah, it's right around the corner from okay. Aurora currently. But yeah, the new facility is spectacular. Really something. You got to come visit, Mike. I will.
I mean, I remember the company from the first days and back in the very, very beginning when they added on and started to do some of the work that they did. So I'm excited to hear more about it. Jack, it was great to have you here. It was, you always do a great job. I mean, I love the technology. You know, I mean, drying is such an important part of what we do. And it's just not drying. I just don't want to throw it at it like that. I think the element of drying and the accuracy of drying, especially within the food bed environment, is really incredibly important because you can dry too quick. You can have inbound moisture. You can trap moisture. So there's an art to it, and there's an ability to understand that you've dried properly. So I think you've done a great job of presenting us with that technology, and I appreciate it very much. Jack?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, the first step of powder processing is creating the powder itself, right?
Bingo. I mean, that's you know, in tableting, one of the first things we learn when we run a tablet press is if there's a problem, we point to the granulation guys.
Of course.
That's in the 101 of training. You know, if there's a problem, find Jack and point at Jack. So, you know, there you go. There you go. So I'm just kidding with you. Jack, thank you so much. Appreciate
you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
you're the second time around. You did the first program back in May. Thank you, and thanks to Fluid Air. Appreciate it.